Uh, and we're live.
You're live on yours. Am I live on mine?
Will you jack your mic up just a little bit, sir?
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't want to blow your ears out because I know
No,
I'm
you're
like already
cool.
on next on that. So, but I can move it if I need to.
Welcome to OnlyFrets.
Welcome to OnlyFrets.
What are you holding today,
We're
Jonathan? What do you got there?
This is a Chapman, first Chapman that I've owned. Played a few of them, but this is an ML3 traditional.
Very nice.
Really nice. I'm usually not a T type person, but this one has a bit of an interesting story to it, which I'll discuss more in a video on it at some point on my channel. But
Yeah.
um, essentially, it sat at my local guitar center, one of them, for probably about a year and a half before anybody, and which I don't know why it plays great, but that's the long and short of it. So now I guess I got to make a video on it.
Nice.
What you got?
This is what's up to Chad on guitar. Hello, sir. This is a 1995-96 made in Japan photo flame Telecaster of the Nashville variety, and it was gifted to me twice by my father. So the first one he gave me was when I graduated high school, and it was the cherry red. And then before he moved, he brought me this over to my house because we didn't have it anymore. So
Right.
it had been sold, but he gave it back to me again, and then I put Seymour. I think I have a video on it. I put Seymour Duncan everything in here. So these are like 52s or whatever, the top and bottom, and then like a 57. So yeah, that's what we're working with today. Telly Day.
Ellie Day. Yeah. Now this is special for a lot of people because I generally don't showcase new gear before I make a video on it, but expect to see a video on the Chapman ML3 at some point in time.
What do you think about the reverse headstock on those?
I Look, I'm a huge fan of reverse headstocks. Um, so I think that they've changed it since this iteration of this. I'm not sure. I don't really follow Chapman all that much. But I like it because it puts more tension on the lower strings, less tension on the higher strings. So you got easier bends on the, like up here when you're wheedling away. And then if you want to drop tune, I mean, you don't really have to put thicker strings on. Like these are 9 to 42s, I believe. So
Okay.
I put that on like traditional like Fender scale length type deals. But I mean, if I wanted to drop tune this thing, I absolutely could, and it would be fine. It wouldn't flub everywhere because of the reverse headstock.
So that string tension thing is kind of interesting. I've never really thought about that before, but that's probably got to be sweet for like chugging rhythms, having that tighter top end.
It is, yeah. I mean, even in which I have sound today, if it'll work. Let's see. Put it on a not a tuner. I mean, it's just standard tuning, but I mean, it sounds absolutely mint. And
Right.
it's got a P90. I'm a big sucker for P90s in the neck. The P90 is like noticeably hotter, but it's a lot darker. So it's
Right.
you get a nice like in the middle. It's really cool too. But again, I'll showcase. Well, we'll play here more, but
Oh
obviously
yeah.
we'll talk about it more in the full video whenever that comes out. But anyway, so what are we talking about today, Sean?
Today we're addressing gear acquisition syndrome, better known as GAS. My
Yes.
father maintains that he coined the term back in the 90s. I think he's probably on a boat with a lot of other men, but
Yeah.
um,
So
so kind of the first thing I wanted to talk about is just your thoughts on good or bad. Um, Obviously, everybody's situation is going to be different, but I would wonder how you typically operate with your own personal experience with gas.
so it's interesting. So obviously when you start playing, you're not really thinking, and this is my experience, it could vary, but I think that it goes along with a lot of people. When I first started playing, I really didn't pay too much attention to branding or things like that. It was more or less what looked cool, right? Because you really don't know. Like obviously everybody says, oh yeah, like Angus Young, he made me want to play, and I found out, oh, he played in SG, so you kind of go down that rabbit hole. What's weird for me, because where I'm at now, I'm a big Epiphone person or Gibson person. I love Les Pauls. I get more into SGs, things like that. What actually got me interested in playing was the gym, the Ibanez gym.
Okay.
So, not that I'm like a huge Steve I fan or anything, but something about the gym when I first saw one, and it was a Gym Junior. I remember it was the white Gym Junior in a Guitar Center. My dad had taken me, and I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, this is what I want. So, my first real guitar, if you will, was an Ibanez. It was an Ibanez RG 2EX1. And regretfully, years ago, I sold it, and I hate that I sold it. And I've been on the lookout for that specific one ever since, because I did some stuff cosmetically to it that I would remember if I ever saw
Yeah.
it. And I've been like religiously searching for it. And I think that really kicked off the G.A.S thing for me. In the back of my mind, I'm still searching for that guitar, but I find other cool things along the way because I'm more enveloped in what it is to, be like a hobbyist, I guess. And the point that I was making to you before we started the stream, since I've gotten more serious with the YouTube thing, I'm always thinking of it as like a business kind of like what's something that I can get that I can make a video out of. It's very very hard for me to buy something that I've either had before or already talked about before. And I know that's a silly thing to say, but like, what's a good example? The Epiphone 56 Pros.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah. You've
had
done like 5 of those, right?
I've done 4 videos on them because I've done one on each color. Love those things. Love it. I hate that I sold them, especially the red one. God help me if I ever find a red one again. And thanks, Jared James Nichols and Old Red. But I bought one after the fact. It was a black one because I was like, I just want one. And then I got rid of it again because I'm like, well, it feels like a waste to have it on my rack. Even though it played great, I love them. They sound great. I couldn't get out of that business mentality, which I kind of hate. Excuse me, I had to mute there, but I hate that.
Yeah.
So I try to remember, like, if I'm going to buy something, I don't care if I already made a video on it. I like it. And that's kind of set me in a different direction of, well, now I'm just going to find stuff that's unique. Um, I'm a sucker for like limited edition stuff, like
Mm.
truly limited edition stuff.
Yeah. I think we
And
all
I,
suffer from that. That's
right.
FOMO, right?
Right. And it's not even like, oh, it's going to be massive resale value because again, I'm looking at like Epiphone. Recently, I've called myself on doing you ever been on the Epiphone wiki?
No,
So we're just going off on a different tangent now.
it's
So the
fine.
Epiphone wiki uh, it was a website where it showcased pretty much every Epiphone model. So it was updated,
Oh,
I guess, religiously. And it would show like, oh, here's like the new SG for this year, and here's all the previous ones and all the signature models, da da da. Well, at one point in time, it went away. There's an archive of it. It's gone up and down, back and forth since, but as of right now, there is an archive of it that's up that cuts it off at a certain point. So if you're looking for like the new inspired by stuff, they're not going to be on there. But it's a
hmm.
really cool like list of old, obscure, signature Epiphone models that sometimes you'll go browse it and you'll see one. It's like, oh, I didn't know they made that. So now I'll
Yeah.
be on the lookout for it. And I like to say that recently I've acquired or am waiting for, as of right now, I'm waiting for one that I found, a couple of them. So I've
Oh,
got
wow.
like the John Connolly Les Paul, the flamey one. I've got one of those. Found
Oh,
it by
yeah, yeah, yeah.
chance. Yeah, with a maple fretboard. Oh my god, awesome. Uh, Zach Wild. I've got a Zach Wild one. That's another like guitar that got me started on it. Was the
Mhm.
Zach Wild Les Paul, the Bullseye. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
It was so
Yeah.
shocking to the system to see that, especially on a Les Paul. I think we've all seen like crazy strats throughout the years, the Steve Vai, like you were talking about, the Ibanez stuff with like
Mhm.
crazy inlays and things like that. But when they slapped the bullseye on the Les Paul, it was like people lost their minds over that, dude.
Yeah, and I know that most people know the story, but if you don't, that's not even what he was going for. He was going for like a swirly effect, which they did end up making later on. I don't
Right.
personally like, But the bullseye is just it became so iconic, and it's
Yeah.
just one of those things that I was like, oh my god, I gotta have it, and I finally own one, and it's like the best thing ever. I love that thing.
I almost
But
when my kid was like 2, my oldest, I almost got him. We ended up getting him a little flying V. It's like this little mini VWE back here. But I
yeah,
was looking really hard at those Zach Wild mini Les Pauls with the
yeah,
bullseye on them.
right now that I eyeball all the time.
Yeah, they're really cool, but they're very expensive. So I got that VWE for like $75.
We'll see in the Pee Wee series. You know, they had the little Les Pauls, they had the Zach Wild one, the V, which I'm a religious like musician's friend, Guitar Center used shopper, so I'm like scrolling through it every day, so I kind of know what's on there just from memory. Sad, I know, but either way, so I find these good deals. But yeah, they have a VWE on there, which I've considered. It's like 120 bucks. I was like, but then I think back to what you said. I think you said it doesn't stay in tune very well, which I have my own ways of making those things work. But then you get into those short scale guitars, and that's a whole different thing for me because I've had a ton of those over the years on and off the channel, and I get them and they're cool, they're quirky, they're whatever, and then I move away from them because it's the honeymoon phase is over, and it's like
Yeah,
and then you miss it. It's just a vicious cycle to me anyway. But I think that the VWs are like they're like super short scale, like they're really
they're
small, aren't they?
tiny. So what we have to do is we tune in G standard, and then
Right.
honestly, the the posts on the bridge, so like the wraparound bridge, they
Mm-hmm.
bend like because you have to
Oh,
tune it so tight to keep it in tune, and then the posts actually bend, and so it's just not like viable. Luckily, like Grandpa already got my older son a different guitar, and then I bought. I think we talked about this last time. I bought a Donner short scale guitar for my younger son, and that one stays in tune perfectly in E. Like it's not too short, but those V's, those are that's like a no fly. Like it doesn't stay in tune. It just won't.
it's just
So
a quirk. I'm saying it's a quirky little thing to have, which again I love, but it's more or less do I like owning it or do I like playing it, which is kind
right.
of I think a big element of gas. It's like you see something cool and it's like, oh yeah, I'd like to own that, but you got to stop, and that's something that I've had to do a lot. Is you got to stop. Sorry, I got to adjust my nose ring. Make the comments now. You got to stop and think like, will I actually put it to use?
Right.
Because there have been times where I've seen things and I'm like, I won't use that. Like it's cool. I would love to say like, here's a video. Like, and then I get out of that business thing too, where I'm like, oh, I can make a video on it, but then it's just gonna be, I don't know. I can't bring myself to own something that I'm not gonna play. So
I'm with you on that. I my gas. So you said something that was really interesting. You're kind of looking at acquiring gear like a business, right? And
yeah,
so YouTube is really, I have to put a decent amount of blame on YouTube for my gas. Like that, I
and that was a
didn't,
big.
I had my Les Paul back here, and
Mhm.
I had two acoustics, and that was all I had. And then I started watching like Robert Baker, and then I jumped on like your channel, and not I'm not blaming you, but like YouTube, like guitar
Not
YouTube. Well, you're an enabler for sure. Oh yeah, the JHS has a premiere right now, so we're in a rare spot on Wednesday where we're competing with a major guitar channel. I've got let's see, I want to say hi to Chad, Mark, and Steve Cassidy, my moderator over here on my channel. Um,
they need to go to the JSS stream and tell everybody to come to OnlyFrets.
that's right.
It's a big
Only
deal.
frets. That's it. But anyway, so I kind of I started taking online lessons. That was the first thing. I was like, I'm gonna get better. So it was my
Yeah.
first sort of. and I had like a Yamaha THR 10 little desktop amp. And
Yeah, those
then
things are
what's that?
so those things are cool.
They are cool. And then I so I started doing that. I posted like I was doing some like challenge videos on Instagram and stuff. And
Yeah.
then gas really set in. I don't know. I got a Harley Benton because I had seen a bunch of Harley Benton videos. The white one over here, and then I got that Strat right there. And that one is like a tribute guitar from my buddy who passed away. It looks just like a guitar that he had that I broke wasted at a party one time. And so I couldn't think of a better way to like honor him than to like recreate Glennis. So that's her name's Ethel. Glennis and Ethel sounded like a good pair. And then it was just like off to the races. Like kit builds became. I'm a tinkerer, so
Yep.
I did the pickups in this, and then I was like, oh, I'll do a kit build. Harley Benton did a challenge, and then it just like slowly, and that was like, oh, Nick Perry released a fuzz pedal, and I didn't have any physical pedals until I got that one, and then now I have like 10 pedals. It just gets on top of you, and I try to do like I'm gonna like make one purchase, and then the rest of the year, if I have to spend money on guitar related things, it's gonna be like lessons or
Right.
and that brings me to that other point, which was um, that Bropes guy on YouTube here, pedals are dangerous, and he talked about doing a gas cleanse, like basically a fast of gas. So you just abstain from buying gear for a set period of time, whether it's like a month, 2 months, 3 months, like refocus your energy. And I really like that, but I also know, for like somebody in your shoes, or even, I'm now starting to think about gear like a business, like what can I review? What can I demo? So, I mean, I think it's just really tough to do.
Yeah, and it's a unique spot to be in for sure. Um, so the thing with me with the like gas cleanse or gas fast thing. So when I get into the mindset of doing something like the whole thing with us setting this stuff, like I worked for a long time behind the scenes trying to get all this stuff in order, like tinkering and going back and forth and say, what can I do to get this stream to work so we can get like, you know, where I can go and y'all can hear it kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're playing that much, but just in case. Um, with YouTube, I have put myself in a unique spot where well, maybe not so unique, but I have months worth of backlog of things that need to go out, like of guitars that I don't own and have not owned for months because they're already recorded, they're uploaded, they're scheduled, but I've had to consistently push them back, mainly because of sponsored stuff. I'll have God Lakato sends me, they're like, hey, here's another thing, here's another thing, here's another. But they do that to everybody. When you get a sponsor by Lakato, I mean, you're guaranteed to build a pedal board or a bunch of small amps, things like that. I'm just
Right.
striking while the iron's hot. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, but I digress. They're great stuff, in my opinion, for the most part. But anyway, I'm not. It's not a sponsored video. Um, but I also I have a little whiteboard back here, and I've talked about that before, where I write down what I got, to do and all that kind of stuff, just to keep me in line. Aside from sponsored stuff, if I got nothing sponsored for the next, month, say I didn't get any emails, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have 16 more videos that I've not recorded yet that I can record. So if I really, really, really wanted to do that gas fast, that's where I say I'm in a unique spot where I probably could, because I can take myself out of that business mentality more because I've already put in the work
Right.
to get all this stuff. But then again, on the flip side of it, I could be like, okay, once I get those, I could spend all day recording, you know, if I've got 6 guitars up there, just as a number, and I get all 6 of those videos filmed, not edited, nothing like that. As long as I've got all the stuff that I need, I'm like, okay, I can get rid of those 6 and go get more.
Right. So it's
But that
more of like a first in, first out, like rotating stock thing.
yeah. Because that's what I'm saying is like I think I've got videos that I have already filmed and edit or mostly edited. Maybe I'm missing like a demo or something on some of them, whatever the case may be. But like I've got stuff in there that I don't have that gear anymore. But I've still got the video there because I've not either had the time to do it, or I'm just saving it to be like, oh, that's just another one that I got to as a space filler or
Yeah.
whatever, you know. Not that I ever do like filler content necessarily. I try to put my heart and soul and pride in all of it just because I do take it seriously. But that's just like a mentality that I get into. So it's a unique spot to be in. But for anybody that does try to do that outside of YouTube, where you don't feel obligated to make the videos,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's easier or harder.
Well,
Realistically, if you're just that obsessed with gear, like I gotta have the next thing, or I gotta have this pedal or this amp or this guitar, whatever the case is, it's like, you know,
well, there's a lot of people over on the JHS channel right now that are gearing up to buy whatever new pedal he just dropped. It looks like
whatever.
it's an
Yeah,
MSR
that's what
version
I'm saying.
or MXR pedal, you know?
Yeah,
And guys, bros love gear. Like we do, like we just do. Bros love gear. Um, Steve said something funny. Yeah, I'll get this for the channel, like that's, and it's like an excuse for something that we would probably do. Like I told Whitney, like if I didn't, my wife, if I didn't have like mouths to feed around here, it's
oh,
full.
you would have
It's
strangers.
full.
Yeah,
It's full of guitars, of synths, of like whatever, any musical thing because as a musician, first, a person who loves making music, you know,
right.
you're just, you're, it's like you can't have too many paintbrushes. That's the argument everybody always, but these are way
Exactly.
freaking cooler than a paintbrush. Look at this thing. Look at it.
But
It's awesome. It's got a photo flame neck. Like yours has like
that's cool.
binding and like, I
Um,
mean, it's way cooler than a paintbrush. It's
yeah,
a sick
but
like
even
object
simple
aside
things,
from, you know.
right? Yeah, and it's then you get the people too that like you don't understand it. It's like, well, you can only play one at a time. It's like, well, tell Michelangelo video that. But anyway, uh, you can only play one at a time. It's like, well, yeah, but you don't understand that like a Telly is not going to sound like a Strat, and a Strat's not going to sound like a Les Paul, and a Les Paul is not going to sound like a hollow body, but a hollow body's not going to sound like a semi hollow. So it's like you feel like you got to have,
Yeah.
everybody's always like, you got to have the Holy Trinity or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
This
like,
is a wide bristle. This is a fine tip.
GRS.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
it's or different pickup can not that I don't want to get in the pickup debate, but um, you got to have a humbucker, a P90, single coil. You know,
And maybe,
to me,
and then maybe some lipsticks or maybe a jazz master pickups or,
jazz matches.
I
And then
mean,
you add on to that.
yeah, Telly's a single coil, but it's way different than, like that P90 you got in the neck.
I got a P90 here, but maybe I don't have a T type that's got a lipstick here. So maybe I need to go get. That's where you get into the dangers of it. But
It's
see,
just never ending.
but see,
Uh,
it like so like here was another thing where you were going back to the it's for the channel, right?
yeah.
So recently, I bought a Les Paul Junior. It was Epiphone Les Paul Junior. I had ordered it and never shipped out. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can make a video with that. I can compare it to this. I can do this. I can get like 3 videos out of it. I was like, cool. But then going back to my earlier point about the Epiphone Wiki speed run that I'm doing, um, I was just scrolling like I do, and I found a really cool SG that I was like, oh, that's just neat. But then I looked into it more, and I'm like, oh, this is one of those limited edition things. So I'm like, I'd rather have that because I can
Yeah.
still get the same amount of videos out of it. My camera's gonna go off. There we go. So I was like, well, let me cancel this, get that, and it's one of those back and forth things. It's like I don't know, it that's a whole different side of gas. Like I said, going back to thinking of it as a business, it's crazy, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
I agree. I mean, I think it's just one of those like really tangled webs you can get caught up in. I try to be very careful or pointed about what I get. I have a couple of pieces of gear here that um, were given. I have some that you know are I'm very sentimental, so that's why I have to be careful. We kind of talked about this in our first episode, or our only episode of Tone Deep, which we also need to discuss. But anyway, I I get sentimental. So for me, I have to be very careful. The pedals are like one thing, you kind of touched on that last time too, where like you can just
Mm,
stack those in a box if you have to. They don't take up a bunch of space, so you don't feel like the walls closing in on you. But with
yeah,
guitars and amps and stuff, it's very like I found an amp that has all kinds of amps, and then I have a pedal that has all kinds of amps in it. And to
right.
me, it's just kind of like I can be done with amps, but with guitars is very different. I love like coming down here. I do like my live streams on Fridays, and I
Nice.
switch like two, three, four guitars sometimes, and I like switching up and playing. It's like, oh, this is a blues track. The Strat will sound really good on this or something. Um, and yeah, Steve says, same here. I can't accept guitars as gifts. Would have to keep them forever. Right. Exactly, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like, if I get them for a gift, that bitch is going to the grave with me. Like, I'm never getting rid of it. My wife got me a new acoustic. I don't care what happens to that thing. I will own it forever. You know,
Right.
um, so to me, when it seems like I know you have a couple over there that you do keep. That I think you still have the yellow Flying V with the black squares on it.
Yeah, it's in a case. Really quick too. I had someone join my stream
Oh,
too.
nice.
Carl, No Shred Zone.
Oh,
Cool. Yeah, go check out his channel. He's really really cool. I like
I
him.
will.
He's picked up some traction in the past couple of months, and I'm really really happy for him. I don't know
Hey,
if he's
man,
still here.
that's awesome.
Hey, how you doing? But anyway, so yeah, I've got a Jackson King V that I think was my second real guitar. Really, the first one that I actually invested money into. I had bought it. It was like $300, I think, which in the grand scheme of things, I think I overpaid for it, but it's okay. I paid for half. My parents paid for the other half.
Nice.
Um, and the pickups on it stopped working. And this was back when I was ignorant and didn't know what I was talking about. I was like, oh, the pickups went bad. So let me cut them out of there. And I think it was just like a loose wire, probably on the
Yeah,
output jack. I could have
cold
resoldered and
solder or something.
so because it had worked fine and stuff. But that one's sentimental in a way. It's the guitar far and beyond that I've owned the longest,
Yep.
and it's just kind of become like a weird little mod puppet that I've got like a weird Seymour Duncan in the bridge and a Wilkinson I think in the neck, and I've repainted it like 4 times, and
I mean, I love that thing, but again, as a fan of everybody, check out my electric flamingo swag, by the way. But as a fan of the channel, like I've seen that in so many videos, background or foreground or otherwise. Like
yeah,
it's funny. It's kind of like your channel mascot guitar at this point. Like it's always been there.
to some degree, yeah. And like I said, I know it's not been there for a while. It's as of recently, it's been in the case just
Hmm.
because I had a case for it for something else that I bought and just kept the case because I'm cruel like that. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like it needed a neck shim because it's a bolt on. It needed a neck shim, and I put a shim in it, and it fixed the one issue that I had. It was like really high action up here, and I took it to a buddy of mine that owns a local music shop to get him to fix it. And he's like, "Man, I've lowered it the best." And this is before I could set up stuff too. And then when I researched it more, I'm like, "Oh, let me try the shim," and it fixed it, and it plays like beautifully. It's like an
Yeah.
Indian made. It's like I think mid 2000s something. So it's not like anything spectacular, but yeah, there's something about it that I'm just like, I can't get rid of this. But
No.
I hate it too because I've sold things like my parents have gotten me for like Christmas gift or something. I regret that all the time.
Well, that's another
But
part to gas. So is that like the regret? Like this is a product of that. Like I was looking at these and gassing for them online, and I was asking my
mm,
dad all the time, like, is he ready to like sell that thing back to us or what? And he was like, no, he said he's never going to sell that guitar. And I was like, so I was looking at other ones and sending him. things like that. Oh, hello, beautiful wife. The missus made her way into the chat. And anyway, I I like needed to have this back. Like I just had to have it. It belongs with my Les Paul. Like these two guitars belong together. And you get something like that in your brain. And then my dad like came through for me on that, but I probably would have bought it at the
Mm.
time. Anyway, but he ended up getting it. He was like, "Nah, don't get that one." And then he bought it like out from under me, and then brought it over. But like, yeah, it's gas can be there's like a reverb effect on, which is a funny that they named the website that, but like you lost something. It's like those new PV Josh Homme amps. I
Yeah.
had one. I had a decade, a PV decade. It was my first amp, and it's like these SOBs are playing on. They were everybody's first amp, and they're just playing on nostalgia. Like those things are trash. They don't sound good. You know.
But they also play on that really, really addictive drug called nostalgia, right?
Exactly. And that, so like you can have gas, you can like get rid, and then like you said, you're cycling through your gear, and
Mm.
then it can come back and bite you later too. You're like, oh, I want to get that.
It
I went through a thing with a Squire Duo Sonic where I was like, oh, I want to buy one of these, and then like put nice pickups in it and like do a video on it. And I'm just like, why? Like, I get it. I get it because it was my first electric, but why? You
does.
know,
Yeah, I think
I'm
one of the
asking
things
you
that
why. I'm just kidding.
that's something for you to figure out. One of the biggest things I think I regret, because now I guess we're getting into like gear regrets, was I got excuse me, I got a Squire John 5 Telly. It was the Frost Gold one, and it was when they were new. So I think they were new for 499, 449. They were like 500 bucks. Let's just call it 500.
Sure.
And man, again, I'm not a T type person. I'm not really a Telly person, despite the fact that I'm holding one. But it was the one thing that I think Telly's I don't like, and it's the neck. Like this one's got rolled edges on it, so it feels absolutely amazing. The Squire that John 5 kind of had the same vibe going on. It was like the best Squire Telly neck that I'd ever played. I mean, it was so good. I think about it all the time. And then aside from
I'm
like
still
the
thinking.
over the
Matter
top,
of fact,
but I mean, it had like gold tuners, gold string trees, gold, I mean, gold everything, gold reflective pickguards, so cool. Two humbuckers, two volumes. It was crazy. Played great. Well, I went on a gear purge at one point. Same time I sold that Ibanez, and got rid of it. And man, the value of those things, you can't find them because they
yeah,
stopped making them shortly after. So now when you find them used, they're like $800 or $900, and it's like, aside from the fact like, man, if I would have waited and sold it then, I could have made more money on it. Probably got the money, back. Not that I bought it; it was a gift, but and I don't want anybody to think that I'm ungrateful. I promise I'm not. That's just the effect of gas.
no,
Once and I was younger, and it's a whole line of things. It wasn't like I'm just like, oh, thanks for the gift, sell it and make the money. Not like that.
no.
Um, but yeah, I hate that. I hate
So
it.
that's an
You
interesting another little side branch of gas, which is like you're literally gassing for a guitar you used to have because you could sell it now for more money. So you're like gassing for something that you would, under any other circumstance, immediately get rid of because you could cash in. And not like, we have all done that as well. I always keep track of how much that Les Paul is worth. Like, and for no reason, I'm never selling it, but I always want to know. And I think that we do that too. I do have a question from Steve. What percentage of pedal gas is the look, do you think? Paint work, knobs, enclosures, like the shape of the enclosure, or, the the characters on it, like how much, what percentage of that do you think is just based on the look alone?
That is a great question. And for me, I'm not a huge pedal head.
Right.
The only reason that I have a lot of pedals right now is, again, because of the YouTube thing. But I will say this: I've started to appreciate more the aesthetics of it. But I will say, to me, it's more about the functionality. So a great example that I can give you is between the two Sonic Cake wahs that I have.
Okay.
Right, I have the wah, which is the smaller one, and then the flip wah, which is the bigger one. They do the same thing. The flip wah is bigger, so it's got more to it, but functionally, it's bigger, so my foot fits on it better. It fits on my pedal board. I've got a bigger pedal board, so it fits on my pedal board. It's got the Q knob on it, so you can adjust the filter on it, which gives it a little bit more flexibility. So to me, it's maybe not about cosmetics, and I have another point to touch on with this too. Um, to me, it goes more with functionality. Here's where I go. Here's where I kind of gotta can kind of go with this. Excuse me, Donner, big fan of Donner. If you're not unfamiliar, if you're not familiar with that,
Big
Donner
fan
has
of
actually
Donner.
they've actually released a new line of pedals. I guess they did it in NAM or something, but I've been in contact with them recently. I'll actually have one on the channel at some point.
Nice.
I think they're 5 pedals. They're blank casings. They are paintable and all that kind of stuff. So that was one of the things they wanted me to do was design, draw my own designs on it and show that you can do it.
Is
And I
that
was
kind
like,
of like
cool.
sorry, cut you off real quick. I'll let you continue. Is that kind of like those fuzztrons from Third Man? They have those fuzz
I,
pedals that come blank and
so,
they give you
so
stickers and stuff like that. But yeah.
yeah, but I think that the casings themselves, I think they're unfinished case, or they're like, I'm assuming they're like a rougher texture. If they're saying you can paint
Okay.
them, I'm thinking
So
good.
completely unfinished.
Yeah, like completely unfinished, so you can add your own graphics to it and stuff, which I think that's kind of cool. So if you want your pedals to look cool, you have an option like that, and it's like 5 pedals of like distortion, delay, typical stuff, a phaser, um, and you can draw on them and do whatever you want to do and make it unique to you, which I think is really cool.
That would there
Some
and
people may or may not.
do you know the price point on those? Because that sounds like a really fun thing to do with my kids.
If I had to guess, they're probably in the realm of like 40 or 50 bucks a pedal,
Nice.
maybe. Um,
Nice.
I haven't. Yeah, so they're like the smaller, little pedals that you can find
Minis.
on Amazon. But yeah, the mini pedals.
Okay.
But like I'm not really I'm not really privy to a lot of that information. I guess just because they have just released them, but they are cool. They did send me a lot of information about it. They do sound cool. I don't know if
Yeah.
I was supposed to say anything about that, but they didn't. I didn't sign an NDA, so I don't. Whoops.
um, real quick, I had my buddy Mark, who hangs out with me on the live streams, jump back in. He says, "What is this gas of which you speak?" And to you, sir, I say, "Well, I don't know. Did you just go buy a pedal from JHS? Be honest." Yeah. So I wanted to hold on one sec. So I have like several. So you did a review and demo of one of these as well, and you got the
The triple
black
threat.
version of this. So going back to Steve's topic of do you buy it just for the look? Well, I waited. I waited until they restocked these because I had to have the yellow one. Like I had to have the yellow one. It was $20 more. They sound exactly the same. And frankly, I don't
Mhm.
even use it this much, but I had to have it. I don't, it was just like really cool. I love Jack White. Um, musically, he's not an influence, but I'm a huge fan of his music and their store and stuff. And so, yeah, like it's the sickest looking pedal I've ever seen, or like the Overhive. All it's like a relic pedal.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're inside the motherboard is like a bee. It's shaped like a bee and it has colors like they paint their motherboards.
So that's
And
kind of cool though.
it is cool. I think I showed it on my Overhive review video. And that's what I think Steve was pointing to is like, this is just an overdrive.
Yeah.
This is just I have an Autoclon. I have a I have overdrives in my Line 6 and in my GTX 100. I do not need it. But look at it. It says sweet on it. Like
That's cool. That's that, and that's going to that too, where you showed like the triple threat. Yeah, like me personally, I would have preferred the yellow one.
mhm.
Um, but I don't know. Like I said, with pedals, I'm just like, who's gonna see them other than me? And if I'm doing it for me, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you're doing it for you. You're gonna be the one looking at it, unless you're on stage and people are like, you know,
Right.
that's when I go to shows. I'm like, what are you playing? But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really affect me all that much. I think I'm more vain on obviously the guitar, kind of the amps. Good example would be I've done a couple of uh, going back to Lakato stuff. They're little mini like desktop amps. Love little desktop amps. Yeah, Black
Yeah.
Star Fly 3 is probably my favorite. Boss Katana Mini, things like that. I've got a new X, what is it, Mighty BT, something like that. Lakato has sent me two of them, and they have black and orange. As far as I know, I don't know if they have other colors, but I was like, send me the orange. Like it stands out. It's cool. It's different. I've got so much, like black amp, black pedals, black, guitars. Like I'm just like so tired of just the bland, like whatever. So I'm like, spice it up a little bit. Send me the orange one. So in a way, yes, it can affect how you look at things. I can't really portray it to pedals, but certainly to amps and guitars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a significant percentage. I would say. I would say for whether it's guitars, amps, or like your that Black Star. Which one do you have again? The St. James?
No, the HT5.
Yeah. But all of those mini Heb 210 cabinet setups, like the tall, skinny ones.
Mm.
I remember I was jonesing hard for like one of those Vox mini Super Beetles, like for a
Oh yeah,
while. Before I got
yeah.
my GTX, I was like, I tried one out. I like the narrow, tall, but also still short, like cabinet stuff. So like the St. James or that HT, they're really they're really good to look at. They just look super cool to me. And it's like, so I still like, I fight, but like I did my video where I refaced the grill cloth on my GTX, and that
Yep.
those little things like that for me are a way to combat gas. Like I do little videos like that where I change something small, do some tinkering on something because I know I'm like my my clicker fingers getting itchy. I want to put stuff in. Papa wants to put stuff in the cart. Wants some walking around money. So I get it. I did this. This is this is an amp. This is an old shop radio,
I was gonna
and
say it
it
looks like an radio.
it has. Hold on.
You're gonna plug her in.
No, no. It has the guts of this in it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I bought one of these. I saw a guy called Carbon Amps on Instagram. You can definitely go look him up. He takes old radios, clock radios, and he makes tube amps out of them. And I was like, I am never doing that. But I was like, I could take the guts out of one of these
Right.
and put it in there. And then the only thing I had to buy was the little mini amp, and then I got two really nice like car audio speakers to
Right.
put
Yeah.
in there and wired them up, and it turned out it's really fun. It's super loud. You can plug pedals into it. Like it sounds really cool. So like these with decent speakers are pretty nice, speaking of mini amps. So like I do little things.
I was gonna tell you the best example of a mini amp that's like hiding a great sounding amp in it, but a garbage speaker is the Orange Crush Mini.
Dude,
Best thing that they ever did with those is put a speaker out on it to plug into a like a
yeah.
412. That thing sounds massive. through a 412, even through a 212. I put it through my 212 when I had one. Oh my god, I was like, that is incredible. I mean, it's limited with the tone and stuff. You just have like I think the one tone knob, but I mean, it is massive how
I'll
it
have
sounds,
to
and it is
I could probably take one of those and like put it like that's the other part about this project is it's like really easy if I get tired of the tone from this board, circuit board, I could like buy one of those Orange Crush minis and drop it right
oh
in there.
yeah, and see, like, even that would probably be great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
those things are cool.
if anything, I mean, maybe that's not the best example. It goes to show that the most important thing in an amp is the speaker. Really, the most important thing in your tone. Oh no, am I starting this debate? Is the
It's
speaker in your cabinet?
Don't fire them up now. I mean, it's like the pickups, right? It's the pickups and the speaker. It's like end to end. It makes sense. It's like
Yeah.
these are the end to end. Yes, Steve, I'm gassing for an Orange Crush mini now. This gas episode has given me gas.
Right. I'm over here like scrolling through here. Oh, there's a cool thing. No, I'm not doing that. But yeah, it's,
um, so
I don't
the other thing, maybe we could switch gears if you don't, unless you have something else you want to touch on real quick.
know. No. I was trying to think if there was another point that I had to the gas thing, but I think we've kind of talked about that
Um,
to death.
the other point, the other thing on this is we talked about this before the show. How many times a month do you have something in your cart and then you bail on it because you're like, I should not do this?
Uh, I'd say at least. I mean, maybe not as bad as others, but I would say at least once or twice a month. I'll leave it there, and I can tell you why I do it in my case. Guitar Center, a musician's friend. I'm just grouping them together as one because they are. They've taken the Sweetwater route with gear advisors. Okay, and I don't know how they know this, but if you leave something in your cart long enough and you don't touch it for about 2 or 3 days, you'll be getting a phone call.
Yep.
Hey, I noticed that you have this guitar, this amp in your cart. I was just trying to wonder why it's still sitting there, what we can do to. So then you get that negotiation point. It's unique with Guitar Center because they have their used section and you can't really haggle on used stuff. I'm like the guitar used expert here. You can't really haggle much on used gear unless it was something like this that sat in a Guitar Center, you know, with everybody's grubby hands all over it all the time for
Right.
like a year. I think it's after 90 days, if I remember correctly. Then you can kind of start. So again, going back to where I check it every day, like I'm pretty consistent with like, oh, here's that SG that's been sitting there for, at least 3 months. So I might add it to my cart and just sit on it, let it stew for a minute. Because
Yeah.
then I know that, you know, George from Guitar Center, and it's not a real person, maybe. He'll be
A
calling
bot.
me and hey, you still put that SG in there. Why aren't you buying it? It's like, well, the price is a little, and so far I've not really had much success with that just because I don't do it as often, but I'm pretty sure out of 100 times that would probably work a solid 95 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
That's why I do that. If I really, really, really want something and I'm just like, the price isn't quite where I want it.
A negotiation tactic, if you will.
Exactly. Exactly. To TRDL or
Yeah.
TL. Sorry. I'm not a Reddit person.
Well, let's uh let's let's wind things down here. I have a question that maybe is gas good? Overarchingly, do you feel like it has been good for your life in general?
Yes, I do. And I can
Yeah.
tell you why. Because, I mean, why would I just say yes and leave it at that? In your stream. No. So to me, it's been very, very beneficial in helping me discover what I like and don't like, or things that maybe I thought I didn't like, I end up really, really liking. A great example is SGs. I've always said that SGs are finicky, they're particular, they are something that you in my experience, can't just blind buy, even though I'm blind buying SGs. But to me, it's one of those things that you really have to like gamble on if you're going to do that. Like you're either gonna hate it or you're gonna love it. There's not really an in between where it's like, it's one or the other. Your mileage may vary, just depends. But you know, I've really come to like SGs a lot, and I've found things within them because I've kind of bought them gassing over them and I'm like, oh, I really like this or I really like this or whatever. Same thing with kind of like Les Pauls. It was kind of how I started to differentiate whether I like S types or single cuts or T types. Like, you know, that constant desire to like have the next thing or have this new thing. It's running me through like I know what my preferences are now, which is very important as a musician to know what you like, specifically a guitar player, because you have endless options,
Yeah.
pickup configurations, you know, God, if you want to get into the tone wood debate, different woods that you gotta get, you
Seven
know,
strings,
the
eight
seven
strings,
string, eight string. What
baritones,
yeah, do you like the extended range? Do you like hollow bodies or semi hollow or solid body, whatever?
22
Uh,
frets or 24.
God, yeah, I know. You know, as a beginner, are you really going to be getting up to that 24th fret or whatever? Most intermediate players don't, but
Yeah, I still
that's
don't do it.
everybody's on their own journey. Everybody's on their own journey. That's not a judge thing.
That's right.
Um, but yeah, it's. I think it's as long as you use it appropriately. You know, if you have $500 burning a hole in your pocket and you're not taking that out of your rent money, or you're not, in your case, taking it out of your kids' mouths,
Yeah.
like by all means, you ain't
Yeah.
hurting nobody.
Agreed. Uh,
You know.
I could not agree with the sentiment that, like, there is no correct opinion about gas. If you play one guitar through one, and I go to 5 Watt World a lot, and his is trying to help you get the most music from the least gear. That's their tagline.
Right.
And that
Yep.
is a noble cause in our human sort of, right and wrong complex or whatever. But at the same time, there really is no right and wrong. The only wrong would be, did you steal it? Or, did you go into ridiculous financial debt that you can't get out of to get something? But other than
Right.
that, it's fair game, baby. This is America. You can buy what you want. Like, I think I know myself. So like I have to watch myself like a hawk. But that's another thing that you should know. You should know yourself. You should know your tendencies. Like it's like um I have one I have one guitar project that is coming up that will take a while. That's going to be like it for another hopefully 2-3 years. I'm trying to like really like not I but it's hard, like you said, going all the way back to the beginning. It's hard to run a
Mhm.
YouTube channel and not acquire new gear for video fodder.
But that's where you get creative.
Yeah.
Because see, the thing, and I can tell you this from experience because I'm starting to feel it,
Mhm.
which I hate it because as I mentioned before, I get this backlog of stuff to do. Um, you get burnout on the here's this guitar, let's review it, like because it's just you're following along just stuff that's already been like rehashed. Now, again, it's not bad that there are all of those different reviews because you could be making a point that 99 other people missed, you know,
True.
or you're all a unique perspective on things. But I'm starting to lean more into that. What can I do differently with what I've already got?
Mhm.
It's I'm trying to think how to do it. Like I want to do more comparison things. Like
Yeah.
I have a video just to give everybody a sneak peek again. Anybody that cares. Um, the there's a single coil comparison I'm doing. To jump into the pickup thing. Like, can you tell cheap from pricier kind of pickups kind of thing, or does it matter? One of those kinds of things. I like doing that kind of stuff. Is it received well? It's hit and miss, but one of the things that I've always learned with YouTube is create evergreen content. Like you can
Yeah.
play on trends and get those like quick hit, views, but in 3 or 4 months or 6 months down the road when that trend is done, you're not getting more views. But you make a review of a guitar, you make 100 of them. There's always going to be someone looking for, oh, what's the ML3 like? Let me
Yep.
go see if I can. Oh, here's your video, and that could be 10 years down the road. I mean, I watch videos from, like Anderton's videos, like from 10 years ago, when they're like, oh, here's a 2014 something. If I'm looking at that, and it's like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's evergreen content.
Yeah. It's interesting. My best performing videos are DIY kit challenge of that offset that I was had earlier. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my flying V build, um, and my GTX 100 video, which was like in my back room with my phone, and I just cranked the GTX 100, and I had people being like, "You can't really. This isn't a good example of how loud it goes." Because what I kept hearing about around the GTX 100 was like, "You can't gig with this." I was like, "I'm sorry, I've seen my dad gig with the GTX 50. The GTX 100 has dual XLR outs, and I
Yeah.
never turn it up past one. Like, I have volume control on my Pod Go. I have like multiple volume controls on my Pod Go. And then I have multiple volume controls on the GTX. And with all of those dials, it's like I could break the glass in my house with this amp. Like, it is crazy.
Right.
And so that video has like 11,000 views over like 3 or 4 years, I think. 3 years, almost four. And it just keeps getting comments like randomly. So to your point about evergreen, like people want to know about that amp because there's not a ton online about it. And
Right.
it's really like the precursor to the Tone Master Pro, but I would argue that putting a Podgo or a Boss or one of the multi effects units that you have reviewed in the last couple months in
Mm.
front of the GTX 100 makes it better than the Tone Master Pro because
Right.
you have so many sets of things to do. But I'm getting off on a tangent, but it's just like that's an evergreen video for me. It keeps getting views every month. It's in my top 5. So like, and the build videos are always like 1 and 2. Like people keep watching that flying V video. It's like up to like
Right.
15,000 views right now, and that's over like 2 years. And none of my other videos are like that. Like my pedal reviews are like basically around my subscribership, and then
Yeah.
but those build videos are just bananas for me. So there is like, like you said, you do a guitar review, you do a build video, you do something where you're like, this is the ABCD 1 2 3, and people will return to it anytime they are thinking about buying one and they look it up.
Right.
That's good
It,
stuff.
yeah, it is. Well, hey man, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, my camera is flashing at me. It's gonna overheat here in just a
It's
second.
about
So
that time, brother.
I know it's like it knows. It's like, hey, you need to get off here, man. But yeah. So everybody that watched, maybe that watched all the way through, thank you very much for tuning
Indeed.
into episode 1. We'll call it of OnlyFrets. It's been a
Yeah,
great time. I think we got a lot of informative stuff out there, and it will be on our channels consecutively. Hopefully, going forward each week, we'll have both of our channels streaming. So wherever you're watching it from, make sure you subscribe to Electric Flamingo if you're watching it on Sean's channel, and vice versa. Go subscribe to Sean Plays Guitar. Make sure you give him some love over there too, and you can see our logos there so you know which one you're clicking on. So, Sean, buddy, thank you very much for your time.
brother. It was a pleasure as always. I look forward to doing this with you week in and week out, man.
Yeah, let me just do this just to make sure we're
Oh
still.
yeah,
Yeah, we're still sounding good. Maybe going forward we'll try to implement some more playing clips in there or something because
yeah. We're talkers, so you know
Yeah, and I mean it's
Definitely.
hard to be like, hey, let me do a riff and you solo because I mean there's probably a lag, so I'll be over here like on this and you'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
We
it's hard to
definitely
do that.
can't play together, that's for sure. But
But hey,
uh
maybe we can maybe next episode we'll be like, hey, let's talk about this guitar and like here's what it sounds like, and we're figuring it out. This is what
yeah,
episode technically episode 2, but episode 1 of our rebranding,
yeah,
which I
we'll
think is
carve
really
out a
cool.
little more time for playing. So look forward to episode 2. Look forward to seeing all the regulars back, and hopefully we'll get some more folks in here and liven up the conversation.
Tell your friends, tell your family, tell them to tell their friends, family, and neighbors. Tell them to come out here.
Yep,
I've
we
got
out here, baby.
I've got that voice. I do DJ work on the side, so I'm like I know how to hype people up. If I'm not hyping you up, I'm doing something wrong.
All right, brother.
All right, man. We'll talk to you. Thank you,
All
everybody, for
right.
joining.
Bye.
Bye bye.